Upon finding out that this new series of Doctor Who was going to require a little bit of a reset, this sets up a pretty optimistic outlook for the series from my point of view. I've wanted fresh ideas for the show to flourish for a while now, and so I guess I'm just going to applaud them for wanting to make Series 10 something more standalone as opposed to the ridiculous continuous story Moffat had been building for the past 7 years. Speaking of Moffat, as we're all aware now, this is his last series, and I have often said that he was at the root of the main problems the show has, so the complaints will probably be limited due to the problem now being resolved. That isn't to say I won't have complaints about certain things. Don't think this series gets a complete exemption from criticism just because it's Moffat's last. Because my gut instinct for this series keeps reminding me of how poor the show has gotten in recent years, I proclaim, therefore, that the problems I'm outlining are so that we can show Chibnall how not to do it when he takes over, like having silly superhero taglines to get people interested in the show again.
We could be heroes.
No, not that one.
Oh, we can be heroes.
No, not that one either. That's the one. Anyway, let's take a look at the opening episode of Series 10. What a dull name. So the story opens in the Doctor's office, where he now has become a professor at St Luke's University in Bristol. It's cool that the Doctor is actively doing something now instead of just wandering around like a little lost lamb. The university lecturer idea isn't too bad. Why he needs an office though, I haven't a clue, but it's nice that in his old age he's giving something back to humanity. Having said that, I find it odd that he's okay with taking on a non-student of the university as his apprentice. Perhaps I'm a little bitter about how absurdly expensive tuition fees are these days, but I thought the Doctor was all about fairness. There are so many students that are paying several £1,000s a year for this joker to ramble on about poetry and quantum physics, and she gets a free pass. No, sorry, let me correct that. She is paid by the university anyway, therefore she's being paid to learn as well as serve chips. How would he ever be able to justify choosing her of all people? Because she smiles in lectures? Oh, Jesus, that makes it sound a bit creepy now. I feel like I'm having a bit of a deja vu moment here, though. Wasn't there another time where the Doctor teaches and the companion serves chips?
Oh my God!
This isn't the only thing about the episode I thought screamed familiarity, though. Nardole seems to be getting a little rusty now and offers Bill a seat in the office, and the music that plays at this point is quite a nice opener. It's a bit tame, but there's a lovely inflection in the piece when we see the TARDIS for the first time in the episode. It's a shame that the rest of the episode's music is either reused from previous series or just doesn't stand out much, considering the music for the show is one of the elements I always look forward to. Bill takes a seat and observes a pot of product placement on the desk. Now available at your local toy store. Batteries not included, each sold separately. Okay, so let's talk about Bill. I was pleasantly surprised to find she wasn't the most irritating element of this opening episode. What was more annoying than that was that the trailers made it out like she was going to be a really boring and ordinary individual.
Bill is... yeah, she's cool.
Bill comes in as very much a regular human being.
There's that moment when we see the girl she fattened up in the cafeteria, which I found really funny. It's nice that she's a bit cheeky, which is also seen later when she pokes holes in the fundamentals of the show, like how he's kept his vault beneath the university of all places, and that the word TARDIS wouldn't work in any other language. You can kind of tell the episode was written by a fan of the show in this regard, but it's still interesting to see a character display a level of intelligence beyond what we'd normally expect of the companion. I think the fact that she is a fan of science fiction also ties this up neatly into the story. She's also a character setting herself out to impress. Take for example her getting some seemingly expensive gifts for the Doctor and her foster mum. She therefore seems overly generous, which could land her in trouble later in the series. It's nice too that she's not from London as we initially thought. This may be revealed to be untrue as we hopefully find out more about her past, but I think it's also good to move away from London for a bit, though undoubtedly we'll find ourselves there at one point or another. Her past is another aspect of her character that interests me greatly, especially the relationship between her dead mother, the foster mum, and the Doctor himself, seeing as he took the picture of her mother.
Just photographs of your mum. I didn't know we had them.
You knew all along and you never told me.
Perhaps there's more to this free education and trips in time and space deal they have going on that will unfold throughout the series, which is interesting because we have this teacher-student relationship going on here that, and again I say hopefully, will develop as the series goes on. It was a bit odd, however, when she said about her mum's favourite phrase, that by some form of divine miracle, she was telepathically informed about it by her dead mother. Right. It got even weirder when she said that the TARDIS looks like a posh kitchen. How on God's earth does the TARDIS interior look like a bloody kitchen? And you call yourself a science fiction fan.
I can't just call you Doctor. Doctor what?
You had one job. I would say that the episode's humour is a bit more on point than usual, though, despite that moment of stupid TARDIS toilet humour. Are we seriously suggesting that Nardole, a robot, also has the ability to shit? Why the hell would you program someone to do that? But as I said, there are some really funny moments in here, like the Chubby Chips thing earlier. There's a really funny bit with the security settings for the basement to be friends only, like a social networking thing. And there was that bit where Bill realises that the TARDIS is bigger on the inside, only for Nardole to say, "Hey, we got there!" And a fantastic reaction from Capaldi. I'm hoping these rivalrous bants continue throughout the series. It creates a nice dynamic between the trio. Unfortunately, like Class, we are subjected to some silly statements in the first sections of the story. It's odd how the writers have to get all their man-hatred out of their system before the story truly develops, almost like it's entirely unnecessary.
You need to keep your eye on men.
As I said before, imagine if this was the other way around. Imagine if a man said to another man that you shouldn't trust women, like some old codger who's had 4 divorces educating his son on the world. It wouldn't slide. It wouldn't pass the first draft of the fucking script. Apparently, blokes just piss everywhere as well.
It hasn't rained for a week.
Yeah, but, well, you know, half the students here are blokes.
Listen, Moffat, you're a man. Why the self-loathing? Or do you have somebody from the diversity department peering over your shoulder the entire time? Well, we're at this point with the first encounter with the monster, which, in my opinion, is the worst aspect of this episode. Let's just take a minute to appreciate that a puddle was the antagonist of this episode. A talking puddle. Those shots we see from beneath the surface with the voiceovers are beyond cringy. Not to mention, it's seriously tame in terms of scariness. It reminds me of The Waters of Mars mixed with James Cameron's The Abyss. The girl doesn't look scary. In fact, in front of the university, it looks like she's wetting herself in this shot here. Actually, I take it back. It doesn't remind me of The Abyss. It literally is The Abyss. Worse than that, it turns out to be nothing more than intelligent spaceship petrol that has a crush on Bill. This is the excuse they pull for why it's chasing them around the universe. Did it want to kill her in the end, or did it just want some company? The show also kept pretending that there was some form of relationship between the two of them as well. Let's just take a look at their encounters. They bump into and stare at each other blankly in a nightclub. They have an awkward conversation on a bench. Heather acts really weirdly about a puddle, then they meet again, and this time Heather promises she won't disappear, and what do you know, she disappears. If I were Bill, I would have just given up on chasing her by this point. She looks like she's on drugs or something, obsessing about weird things in puddles. You're on a university campus, Bill. There are plenty of other gorgeous women you can feed your chips to instead. She even calls her a friend around the 30-minute mark, and given her interactions with her, I think I would have given up trying to help her and just reported her to the police by this point.
You cursed rat! Look what you've done! I'm melting! Melting!
I love how at Christmas, Bill deliberately puts her hair up in that bun on top of her head, knowing she's going to have to wear a hat from a cracker later on. Well, I can't exactly say she's unprepared, but she does look quite funny in this shot here. When the Doctor runs out of his office, it's weird how his chair is still spinning despite running outside. It looks funny because it's like he just teleported from getting up out of his chair to running outside the building. I'm really excited to see what's inside the vault in the basement of the uni, although I'm banking on those classic Cybermen being locked away down there. At the same time, there is something of great value in there, considering the great lengths the Doctor and Nardole take to keeping it down there. When they go millions of years in the future, they really overdid the special effects in this segment here. It could have been great if it wasn't for these plants in the background. They look absolutely dreadful.
Fat though.
Oh, and thank God they didn't use that clip from last year that they released. It would be even better as well if this is all we see of the Daleks this year and that they don't get their own episode. I think Nardole fancies the Doctor.
Never underestimate a crush.
Oh, you don't have to tell me. That's the Doctor for you. Never notices the tears.
Finally, when the TARDIS doors open at the end, there is this absurdly protruding purple lens flare. Where is this coming from? In fact, if you look at any of the trailers for Series 10, it's not there. And yet now it is? The shot looked quite nice without it, and now it's like J.J. Abrams just came along and bloody ruined it. So, did it suck? Well, the best things about this episode certainly are the moments of humour, and Bill as a character has been introduced in a really effective way. Perhaps that was down to my pessimistic expectation that we'd get another Clara or something, but the decision to push the reset button was a good one as outlined. Unfortunately, our villain, the special effects, and irritating moments scattered throughout spoil what could have been something great. Fortunately, it sets itself up well for the rest of the series. Hopefully the development will be good to watch unfolding as the weeks go by. I give this episode a 5 out of 10. Well, we have the infamous emoji episode next week, which should be a right barrel of laughs, but also, what's with the dramatic head turnings in the Coming Soon trailer we saw as well? Oh, I don't know. Anyway, here's some outtakes. I would say that the episode's humour is a bit more on point than usual, though, despite that moment of stupid. It reminds me of The Waters of Mars mixed with John Cameron's Bill deliberately puts her hair up in that bun on top of her head, knowing she's... oh shit. Considering the great lengths the Doctor and Nardole take to cape... What am I talking about?